I need to make a video on this?
No.
Do I absolutely adore my writing teacher, Abbie Emmons?
Of course.
But I just gotta do it. 100 Days of Sunlight revived my fading love of reading. I did it all the time as a kid, and then the internet swallowed me whole and couldn't spare me for a minute, even to read a book. When I finally read 100 Days of Sunlight, I rediscovered what it was like to read up until midnight when you know you can't sleep in the next morning. I also vacuumed the best Christmas ever into my brain. So much love. But when I got snapshots of Sunlight, it felt different. This one isn't one narrative, but 5 short stories, which isn't immediately the problem, but there is, in fact, a problem, which is why I'm making the video. So I suppose a quick bit of context is in order for those who haven't read the books. 100 Days of Sunlight is written by Abbie Emmons. It's about a sheltered girl who loses her sight for 100 days and a confident, say-anything-in-his-head boy who also happens to be a double amputee. Weston, the amputee, takes a chance to help Tessa, the blind girl, keep up with her poetry, whether she wants him to or not. They have impeccable chemistry and enough fluffy moments to make a blanket. That doesn't mean there's no meaningful drama to push the story forward. There's just the right amount. And I love it. Their Christmas story follows the same fluff to drama ratio, which made it feel like an adventure for the same characters. This leads me to the main problem with Snapshots. The drama to fluff ratio has entirely flipped. In fact, I think that there's even less fluff in Snapshots than there was drama in either of its predecessors. I'll spoil as little as possible for each of the short stories because I do legitimately want everyone to give this series a read, but here I go. The first story is Weston-focused. It involves drama with another girl, but that's only a small part. The second story is West-Tess-focused. That's a ship name. It involves a whole lot of sex drama, more on that later, and a Tessa-Weston argument where they almost break up. The third story is Tessa-focused. It involves a drama with another guy, and a Tessa-Weston argument where they almost break up. The fourth story is a Ludovico story. That's Weston's last name. It involves more sex themes, and an almost Tessa-Weston argument. The fifth and last story is a West-Tess mystery story, which involves scandal and a situation where Weston literally almost dies. See a bit of a pattern? I'm sure it didn't feel this way while writing and editing, but while reading, it really felt like Tessa and Weston spent at least 50% of this book arguing, or at least butting heads about something. Arguing about sex, arguing about how friendly is too friendly with another guy, butting heads about how they failed to chaperone Weston's little brother. What were they doing the other 50% of the time? Yeah. If they weren't fighting, they were kissing. And if they weren't kissing, they were fighting. But if they do that 50% of the time they're together, then why did you say there was no fluff? Let me just find my words here. Because it's not fluff. Fluff is the Sound of Music scene from the first book. Fluff is Tessa and Weston having a snowball fight in the second. Fluff can include a multitude of physical scenes, but overdo it, and it kind of crosses the border between fluffy and steamy. And they do get very steamy, but they never actually cross the line. Don't worry. But you said 2 of the 5 stories were about sex. So if they didn't cross the line, what were they doing? You're misremembering my words. I said drama and themes, not scenes. This is a bit of conflict of interest between our 2 main characters, because there's something about this relationship that we were able to ignore in the first 2 books, but is really starting to get awkward the longer this story goes on. Tessa and Weston are not aligned on one very important thing that is, indeed, very important. Their worldview. Tessa is a Christian, like me. Weston is not. In real life, a division on religious beliefs would be an issue that would get between 2 people over time. When a relationship starts, both partners are still very starry-eyed about each other. They're willing to do things for each other that they normally wouldn't do, like an atheist, for example, may be willing to go to church with their partner once in a while, or a Christian might be willing to put up with their partner's nonchalant attitude about their faith, because they love each other. But as time goes on, their faith, or lack of it, will start to weary each other, a lot of the time leading to splits if neither side changes for the other. In the first two books, it's easy to overlook this because Tessa and Wes had wonderful chemistry, and even when they fought, their love for each other rebuilt the bridge that had been broken by their misunderstandings. But these fights just aren't like the fights in the first two books. Weston may be okay with not making love with his girlfriend now, but he said in the book that he wouldn't complain if Tessa's convictions went away tomorrow. He stopped going to church with her, at least it seems so by what we can see in the events of the book. How does Tessa feel about that? How does Weston feel about going right up to the line physically with Tessa when he doesn't share her convictions about waiting till marriage to do it all? Tessa has to learn the hard way about the problems of getting close to another guy when you have a boyfriend. She's so determined to be friends with this guy, even though it's making Weston uncomfortable, that she almost breaks up with him. That is another big divide on principles that only gets bridged because Tessa is burned by this guy she's trying to be friends with. If she hadn't been, would she have continued on her path and pushed away Weston completely? All of a sudden, we have to wrestle with the question, if the only way these two get along now is when they're getting steamy, and they just tolerate each other's worldviews, are they actually going to make it for the long term? For another couple of years, even? I know, it's all fiction, and if Abbie wants these two to be forever, then she will make it happen. But it was easy enough to use that reasoning in the first two books, where their chemistry lies in more than just their makeout sessions. And now we circle it all the way back to this book being 5 short stories instead of one whole one. Short stories don't have as much time to breathe as an entire novel does, so the plot has to be short and snappy. For stories like Weston's time at the boxing gym, the one where they follow around his brother the whole time, or the mystery one at the end, it does work. There's much less drama in these, and they fit the short story format well. The prom one and the Tessa one, however, have way too much drama to fit in a little short story. The Tessa-focused story worked pacing-wise, but felt rough to read after having just read Weston's drama and the whole prom escapade unfold. The prom one needed to be an entire novel. The theme needed time to breathe, because if Tessa and Weston were real people, this would become a big issue for them as their relationship progressed. I think that's why I disliked this latest addition to the series so much. It broke my suspension of disbelief about these two making it together for their whole lives, and showed me time and time again why these two really are not compatible for a long-term relationship. I'm 100% sure this was unintentional, and maybe I'm just being a buzzkill, but I wouldn't have felt so strongly about it in the first place if the series didn't touch my heart in a special way, so in a way, I suppose this video is a weird compliment. Yeah, I'll call it a weird compliment and say no more on the subject. That seems fair. Now's all we got, and time can't be bought. I know it inside my heart, forever will forever be yours. Even if we try to forget, love will remember. You said you loved me, I said I loved you back. What happened to that? What happened to that? All your promises and all the plans we had. What happened to that? What happened to that? Boom, gone, yeah, we move on. Even if we try to forget, love will remember you, and love will remember me. I know it inside my heart, forever will forever be yours. Even if we try to forget, love will remember, love will remember, love will remember, love will remember.